funny. I mean, it's actually a great segue from John's presentation because we are a, Corestack. I'll talk a little about the Corestack technology. We're a bunch of Microsoft people, so we understand Microsoft and Azure very, very well. I myself spent many years at Microsoft. It's a great company, and some of the things you talk about there, certainly it's great to see. But I'm going to talk about cloud governance.
Hey, Bob,
yeah.
That was the method behind my madness instructional agenda with lots of great information on all the top issues from security to compliance to application development, and also featuring the big three cloud providers and one of the leading healthcare providers. It's going to be a great program, so I don't want anyone to leave, and we got a couple more $50 gift card raffles as well.
Awesome, yeah. And I want to talk about why governance is critical in healthcare, and obviously how to best implement it inside the various hyperscalers, including Microsoft. Just a quick look at industry trends, right? Not headline news here. We all know that the cloud market is absolutely exploding. It's exploding in healthcare specifically, even more so than some of the other verticals, for all the right reasons, right? The healthcare companies want the resiliency, the extensibility, right? All the good things that you want in the cloud, you're basically getting, and you're able to basically make great use of it. And the other data point, around 8 terabytes of data per health provider per month going to the cloud, that's an insane amount of information being stored now in the public clouds collectively. But then if you look at the flip side of that conversation, are we actually meeting the standards, right? Are we actually meeting the HIPAA standards? Are we meeting the high tech standards? Are we meeting all the various GDPR standards? Are we actually doing all this stuff? And the data shows that we're not, right? We're not meeting the standards. We're not meeting the security capabilities that we really need to do, as you see some of the data points here. And the reason for that is that the hyperscalers do a lot for you, right? The hyperscalers give you a lot of capability in terms of providing you security, right? One of the points I could have made on the last slide was that one of the reasons why we see so much cloud spend, yet see so little cloud authentication, authorization, and so little compliance is that, in my opinion, many of the companies initially are focused on the lift and shift into the cloud, right? How do I get these workloads running in the cloud? How do I get all the benefits of the cloud? But things like compliance, security, these things they consider to be either second day topic, meaning, hey, we'll worry about it after we get the stuff up and running, and we'll put that stuff in. Or number two, they're hoping that the cloud providers, the hyperscalers, actually provide that security. Well, what you find is that the hyperscalers do a lot for you, absolutely, right? But they're providing you a certain level of security of the cloud itself. They're not necessarily giving you security in the cloud. I think John's pitch also spoke to this. There's nothing that a hyperscaler can do to stop somebody at your company from rolling out some storage that's not encrypted, right? The hyperscaler's not going to know about that. They're not going to check for that. They're not going to do any work on that because they simply can't do that. So it's critically important that you protect yourself. When you're in the cloud, you are required to basically make sure that the workloads you're running are compliant with all the standards. And Ron, as you mentioned, it might be state level standards, it might be federal standards. If you're a global provider, there can be standards around the world. Brazil has very different standards than Germany, which are very different than India, which are of course very different than the US. So all these things become critically important, and it becomes especially difficult once you have multiple clouds in your environment, right? I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail, but providing this level of security, this level of compliance, it becomes really, really difficult. And that's what we do here at Corestack, right? We're an autonomous, continuous cloud governance platform. And if you look at the totality of our product is made up of 3 separate modules. We provide you a FinOps module where we help you basically optimize all the costs that you're incurring by running in the cloud, right? How do you actually take all the stuff in provision, look at it from an operational perspective, look at it from a security compliance perspective, and then help you optimize that cost, right? Give you remediation, recommendation, all the goodies that you need to expect from a great FinOps tool. On the other side of the spectrum, we give you cloud operations capability, right? This particular module or technology focuses on how do I operate the cloud with integration into all my back-end legacy systems, right? How do I provide self-service portals? How do I deploy stuff? How do I make sure my CMDBs kept up to date as I deploy more hardware in the cloud, right? So those are 2 pieces that I'm not going to speak a lot about today, but they provide the totality of our product. What I am going to talk a lot today about is SecOps, right? SecOps, which includes both security and compliance, right? How do we do that? But I wanted to kind of show you the bigger picture in terms of what we at Corestack provide in terms of autonomous, continuous cloud governance. Looking specifically at the use cases in healthcare, obviously there's lots and lots of people and companies and organizations that play in the healthcare space, and we have a lot of customers in this space. But I want to point out three of our more sort of interesting customers, right? If you look at GE Healthcare, which of course is a massive device maker, deploys their technology, MRI machines, X-ray machines, all those kind of things globally, right, into healthcare providers everywhere. Another sort of a company represented in healthcare would be Leo Pharmaceuticals, a retail pharmacy running in EMEA, right? This is a different set of challenges they bring to bear. And then finally, one of our customers, NTT Data, works very closely with the claims process, all the payers in healthcare, right? So again, a very different problem there as well. And NTT works with some of the biggest providers in the world to basically, build out, cloud-based infrastructures for these people. Now, some of the things that we find in common across all of these companies is that, number one, obviously they're all leveraging the cloud in a big way, and then continuing to leverage the cloud even in a bigger way moving forward, right? So they're definitely in the cloud and then growing. Number two, these guys are very distributed, right? GE Healthcare is global, Leo is multinational, NTT Data is global with the customers they work with. So they run into regulation and policy and security considerations, which are very regional and very localized. Number three, they have a requirement. Again, if you look at a company like GE Healthcare, not only do they want to implement the standards, right? Not only do they want to implement, HIPAA, some NIST standards, some ISO standards, they have GE Healthcare specific standards. So they want to take those industry-wide standards and extend them to make them GE specific, and then basically implement them across all of their clouds. Same with NTT, right? NTT goes from one particular payer to another payer, but of course the policies may be very different. The requirements around compliance may be very different. So then again, we want to work with them to give them a platform from which they can basically centrally manage, create and manage all of these security and compliance policies, right? That becomes a critical theme here, right? Centrally manage all these security and compliance policies. So if you start looking at healthcare and governance, right? We talk about these customers and we talk about what's going on here. What are some of the key compliance metrics that we're looking for, right? These folks are all looking at HIPAA, obviously that's a big one. High tech's a big one. GXP compliance is a big one for Leo. That was a huge capability they required. GDPR, and of course the list goes on and on. Corestack ships with over 1,500 of these policies built into the product, right? And what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to, again, create policies in this particular platform, right? We want to be able to deploy these policies from our platform into any cloud, right? Any of the three public clouds. And right now, we're looking to add Oracle Cloud into the mix as well. So shortly, we'll have Oracle Cloud support. So we're going to be able to deploy these policies into any four of the public clouds that people may be deploying their technology into. And then more importantly, we can basically create custom policies and also extend existing policies, right? So whether they're security policies or compliance policies, craft them, extend them, deploy them into multiple clouds, and then basically enforce them, right? Enforce them. And this is all basically checkbox compliance. So if you look at our technology, you would see that we would give you up to 1,500 policies that come out of the box with our technology, right? You're able to take any one of these policies, check a box and say, you know what, I want this particular policy now applied across all my cloud real estate. Access control, security, encryption first resources, patch management, just about everything you can think of can be handled via checkbox. Now, what's interesting is that once a policy is enforced and it's put into place, we will then give you a dashboard from you can get real-time capability. You can get a real-time posture assessment. So if a particular policy is not being enforced, if a particular standard is being violated, if a particular compliance policy is currently not being adhered to, we can bring that information back to you in a continuous, real-time fashion via dashboard. So we know exactly what the issue is, right? So we'll report on the issue. We'll give you a recommendation how to fix the issue, right? And then finally, we'll give you remediation. So you can check the box and say, you know what, go ahead and fix that, right? Make sure that that particular storage device out there is in fact encrypted. So that capability to basically report, recommend, and remediate around all this stuff becomes a thing that really drives the effectiveness and the efficiency of your staff, right? All this becomes super important and becomes super capable. So let's take a little closer look at the GE healthcare situation, right? Again, GE is a global organization, right? Running MRI machines and X-ray machines, all that kind of good stuff all around the world, and they're collecting this data everywhere. And every time there's a violation, GE doesn't even know about it, right? Before they implement our technology, they didn't have the real-time visibility to understanding, where is there a violation, where is there a lack of adherence to a standard, which geography, right? So all these things become real important. So what we did for GE was we worked with them to say, we want to basically allow you to take the 1,500 policies that we ship with and extend those policies to make them GE specific in the case where they want to extend them. So if they want to do something specific because they're running in a particular region of the world, a particular state in the US, a particular country, right? We allow them to basically extend those policies so that these policies now become customized for their particular business. And with the checkbox, we're able to deploy that across the entire globe, right? Basically into Azure data centers in India, into AWS in Europe, into GCP here in the US, but basically in all of the public clouds, we're able to now deploy our security and compliance posture. What's interesting here now is that because they have this, they're now able to officially provide for any audit requirements that creep up, right? Because prior to deploying Corestack, when GE Healthcare was hit with an audit, it took several months to actually collect all the data to report on that audit, right? To provide the information that the regulators were looking for from an auditing perspective. So now, because we've got our technology deployed there, they're able to collect and respond to these audit requirements within days, right? Not months, days, because we collect all the information for them, showing, kind of showcasing what they need to basically make all this stuff happen. So again, it's not just about reporting, but it's about recommending, remediating, and fixing any of the anomalies that we see out there, and then helping out with the audit compliance stuff. Okay, so that's moving on to a slightly different topic around DevSecOps and zero trust infrastructure. So obviously, as these companies run in the cloud, they're using Terraform templates. John just talked about Bison to extend Terraform templates. You're basically getting all this infrastructure from the cloud providers. You're getting a lot of software and hardware from a lot of different places. So zero trust becomes super important, right? You can certainly, you'd like to trust all this stuff, but you have to validate and verify every single thing that we do. So we find a lot of our customers like to inject the capability that Corestack provides early in their development cycle. So we integrate into all the CI/CD pipelines, whether it's GitLab, it's Jenkins, some of the other big ones out there, Harness, and we're able to basically introduce, our security and compliance policies directly into these Terraform templates and validate, while you're developing code, that the software that we're building, the configuration that we're testing against are completely valid, number one. And number two, we're basically cataloging all this information from an auditing perspective. So should there be an audit at some point, you have the full life cycle of how this piece of software was built, and which policies and which compliance standards it's been supporting since the first day that it was being built. So this whole notion of DevSecOps, putting in these security and compliance policies early on into the CI/CD pipeline becomes super important. And what that really drives is that it drives an extremely powerful shift left component, because now your developers are not waiting for all the validation and all the auditing to move forward in their CI/CD development process. So developer productivity actually goes up dramatically. We have some customers where we've seen it upwards of 15% improvement in developer productivity when you're building healthcare applications, because some of these sort of more laborious things around auditing and policy and security and compliance have all been taken away, right? Now this is all being reported and implemented as policy throughout the CI/CD pipeline, going right into production. right? So this has turned out to be a really, really cool capability that we're bringing to bear for a lot of our partners. So these are some of the key things I wanted to cover today, right? Some of the key things are, out of the box policy deployment of 1,500 policies, the capability to basically upgrade, enhance, and extend those policies, deploy those policies into any public cloud, and then get real-time feedback in terms of how well they're being adhered to and how well they're being enforced, right? And providing you the engine from where you can not only see this stuff, but also remediate it immediately from there as well.